You can see Roxy here got a haircut. Don't she look good? Poor old dog. No hair anymore. She's alright though. Stay down. Okay, I realize I probably didn't explain this very well in the videos on this winch, but I want to show you how the winch works on this truck. This has what you call a PTO drive clutch. So the way that works, the PTO is connected to your transmission. So in normal operation, your PTO is in the middle, which would be straight up and down like this. If we wanted to winch the line in, we would push the clutch, we'd stop the transmission, we'd push it forward. Now the winch is not going to do anything until we let the clutch out. Now you can put the truck in gear and the winch in gear at the same time, but they're going to be at different rates of speed. So it's a bit of a game you have to play to manipulate the cable and get the trailer where you want it, like when you're letting your trailer off of the truck. So then, if I'm probably overcomplicating this, but to winch in, we push this lever back and we let out on the clutch. The engine turns the transmission turns the PTO. The PTO is spinning in reverse or forward, depending on if you're going in or out on your winch. Now, you have to have your transmission in neutral for this to work. You can't be driving, well, you can be driving with the winch engaged, but you normally would not be. You normally would have your transmission in neutral. Now, there's a couple of other controls on here. We have the winch brake, and this is an air operated cylinder. It's a variable brake, so the more you push it, it's kind of like your Johnson bar on your air brakes on your trailer. The more you push it, the more tension you get. And this is, when I talk about the dog, this is the dog switch. And when you got it forward, your dog is locked in, your winch is locked to the shaft, your spool is locked to the shaft of the winch. When it's in neutral, there's no air pressure to the cylinder, but when you push it back, it kicks the dog out. And I will show you where that's at on the winch, as well as the brake. But I wanted to explain this to you because the PTO winch is a little bit different than the newer hydraulic winches that are live. And by live, I mean that you can actually, you don't have to push the clutch in on the transmission to go forward or reverse. You can just pull a lever and your winch will start spooling in, or you can pull the lever back, it'll start spooling out. This is the old style winch, the PTO drive winch. A little bit different setup than what the newer oil field trucks are running nowadays. So let me fire this thing up and get some air pressure, and we'll check some other stuff out. I'll show you what's what. Okay, now that I have air pressure, we can kick the dog in or out. I got the dog out right now. Now with the dog out, I'm gonna put it in gear. And you can see the shaft is turning. PTO's engaged. Dane turns the worm drive, turns the shaft. And this is what, when I say I'm kicking the dog out, this is the dog. This is on an air cylinder operated by this lever. And when the dog's out, this is your brake. This brake, it needs a new lining on it, but it's also operated by an air cylinder. And this brake is only for keeping your cable tight when you're unspooling and freewheeling. It's not for holding a load. So this is not a load brake. This is just a, you know, when you don't want your cable to just, your spool to just freewheel and burden extra cable. So I hope that explains it. You can see the two cylinders. The one on that side over there is for the brake. The one on this side runs the dog in and out. And they work off of these shafts and a little lever. Anyway, hope that explains that good enough. So when I talk about live PTO, that would be, you could run this with the engine running. It'd be like a hydraulic. This is not a live PTO. This is the old style. Works off of the input shaft of the transmission. So the input shaft is always spinning when your engine's running and the clutch is engaged. So the input shaft has a gear that drives the PTO, and then the PTO gearbox has a forward and reverse. And like I say, you can sometimes you can get it to go in gear. Now when I put it in reverse, it'll spin the winch in the opposite direction. Right now our dog's out, so it's disengaged. It's just letting the spool spin freely. That's why our cable's kind of messed up there. But anyway, I hope you understand. This is a little bit different winch setup than what you'll see on the newer oil field trucks. They got hydraulic winches with live hydraulics. They can run that winch anytime they want. They don't have to have the truck in neutral. So that's kind of the way that works. I hope that explains it. But these are my winch controls. When I say dog out, that's that the fingers. When I say I'm using my winch brake, that's that lever there. And then forward spins the cable in, reverse spins the cable out. Now on these winches, there's also what they call a brake, and there's a set of brake shoes inside this drum here. And the only thing this does is this, like if you have a really heavy load you're pulling, even though this is a worm gear drive winch, sometimes the load will try to overcome that and spin the winch when you hit the clutch. This brake here is supposed to catch only when it's going in reverse. So one of the things about these winches is you should not ever just leave them in reverse. The only time you should use reverse is when you're lowering a load, or like when I'm lowering the trailer from the deck down to the ground. It's okay to run it backwards, but as soon as you get it down, you don't want to just pull your winch out using the gearbox. You want to kick your dog out and freewheel it. That way you're not running this brake. Now when the winch is running forward, this brake releases, so it doesn't catch in forward. It only catches when the load tries to pull everything backwards. I hope that explains that. This gearbox runs in oil, and I think on this one it's a dry brake, but these are adjustable. There's procedures for how to adjust them. I tried messing with this one and twisted the bolt off, and I kind of stopped because it's working pretty good the way it is. I'm not saying the brake shouldn't be adjusted, but the way these are adjusted is you set them, you have to take the cable off, or the chain off your sprocket, and then you'll actually take a torque wrench and you'll set them to a certain amount of torque. So the way they adjust is this bolt here, and then you put a 1/2 inch drive and it says tighten or loosen. Anyway, that's about all I know about this winch and this winch truck. As far as my trailer, it's had some pieces added onto it. I'd like to modify these. I think I'm gonna cut it down to 8 foot 6. I may leave a little bit of that on there, I don't know. This is a pretty solid trailer. It's not bad for the money I got in it. The frame's pretty straight. It's got new brakes, new brake drums. I think it's a 76 model, which is no, it's a 78. I was wrong. My truck's a 76, my trailer's a 78. But one of the cool things about this, the way this works, is you have these ramps. So when the trailer comes off the ramp, it goes downhill, it lowers. And by the time we get to back here, these are almost touching the ground. So there's very little, you know, you're not lifting a load that high off the ground. When you start out back here, you're just barely on the ground. So this winch system starts pulling right here, and that's when it basically is up on the truck. Now I do need to rebuild my roller. You can see it's about wore out. There's another couple modifications I'd like to make to the ramps. They're kind of sharp on top. I'd like for them to kind of be flatter, because when that trailer gets up there, it kind of has a tendency of sticking a little bit, but I think it needs a little bit more on the flat. Anyway, that's just kind of explaining what I know so far. I don't know it all, and if you guys got any suggestions, one of the things I've questioned is the best way to tie the winch on. This is the way I think works best, because you're not actually running the cable up against the roller. It has a little space in there to keep the cable from being pinched. If you try to run the chain hooked directly to here, which I have tried that, you have to roll that chain over the roller, and then also this will have a tendency to snag up on the fifth wheel. So I think this is probably the best method to do. And basically I've just got it tied to the frame of the trailer. It's looped through here so it can pick up. But like I say, if you know a better way to do that, let me know. I'd be happy to hear about it. The trailer needs new boards on the floor, which most old trailers do. But this is a Tulsa. I believe it's a 45,000 pound winch, from what I can tell off of the tag. I don't know the model number, but these are built in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tulsa Winch Group, I think, still builds them. Anyway, this, you can see this is kind of set up at an angle. Why they did that, the only reason I can think of is to get the correct angle on their drive line. Drive lines should always run at the same pitch. So I think what they did is they set this at an angle so that it would match the angle of the engine. That way your drive line runs smooth, I think. Anyway, that's about all I know for today.